Part two from last week. We're going to look at the ends and the sides. We're going to do more than that, but that's what came up first. Last week, we stopped right after building a box. You know, it's really a high-tech term. We built a box. You got four sides, it's a box. Now we got to close it in. So we glue the scribe siding that was supplied onto the ends. I use carpenter's glue. Not going to get too complicated with this. And trim off the excess. Some rubber bands come in real handy for this, 5 or 6. You want to bend it nice and carefully so it doesn't break and crack and what have you. But you also want to get a nice even coat of that glue, carpenter's glue, on, you know, tight bond 1, 2, whichever you like, on there, because then this won't split 10, 20 years later. It'll all be one contiguous unit. And you can see once this is in here, once you got the end on, you can see we're not done up here yet. And we have a little bit of overhang. Well, we want a little overhang because there should be some overhang here, but now we know how far we can get back down into the side without compromising this overhang. You want to roll this back with some sanding blocks. So, you know, it's the 2x4 sanding block with some 100 grit paper in it. And you just sit down and play with it and run it over, roll it over this curve until it's smooth and you can get these little pieces out of here. It just takes a little patience and time. Put on some good music, a cold drink, and don't get the sanding dust in your drink unless you want to. Okay, so now we got to go around the corner to put the sides in. This gets fun here. So you're turning the corner, and what they supplied is a piece of quarter round, which didn't come out real good in the photo. It's a little more visible here. This is a quarter round. You can see it's sort of up here, and that gets glued into this piece of right angle wood stock to make this piece right here. So that's how you turn the corner on this kit. You glue the quarter round into the angle stock. It's like the lime and the coconut. You drink them both together. It's the quarter round into the angle stock, and you glue them both together. And then you glue this into the corner, and now you have a nice tight right angle to fit the scribed end stock against the side stock. And this is also fairly deep because remember that side stock is fairly thick scribed plywood. So you want to fit this carefully, and you want to fit it carefully for the obvious reason. You want nice clean joints here, here, and in the middle. So getting the first one's easy. Getting the other two is a little trickier because you may not have this 100% perfectly straight on both these. So you may want to touch this with the that same 2x4 with the 100 grit paper on it. Just sneak up on it, make sure it fits 100% perfect in that against that joint versus the top. You may have to just take a half a degree or 2 off. This piece over here, you may have to cut a board or 2 width off. So you want to get a really, really, really brand new sharp knife to do this because you're going with the grain, against the grain, and with the grain again. It'll splinter if you're not careful, so don't rush it. Use a steel ruler. Cut up against that. Take it easy and slow until you get it where you want. Cut it long. If you cut it short, it's hard to put it back on. Cutting it long and then sand it to fit. So you want to sneak up on it with a sanding block. Make sure it fits. Get this end here first, or get one of the 2 ends first, and then make the other one fit with the sanding block. It's the only way I know to do that without making a mess. And you don't want to start over with it because there's no extra parts. And you could make new sides if you wanted to, but that's just painful. So glue and weight. And you know, that is a piece of lead wrapped in vinyl. They make lead bricks. So it's actually safe, theoretically safe to your hands. Like you're going to actually stick the brick in your mouth. That's a couple of pounds. and I have 4 of those. So when I need to weight something down or glue it down, and I actually have 2 or 3 lead bricks that, well, they're not lead brick, full-size lead bricks, because those are 32 pounds, but or 38 pounds, I've forgotten. But I have some small fragments of lead bricks that I use for weighting things down. So no rush here. Put a brick on it, come back a couple hours after the glue is set. That's what you get. Okay, so there's a bit of a seam there, but I don't think it's too heinous. Came out actually probably better than I thought I was going to get it to work. I probably paid attention, actually was more careful than I normally am. So you got one side done, flip it over and do the other side. It's just that easy. Okay, now that you got the 2 sides glued, now you have fun putting all this stuff on each side. So you got a diagram that tells you where to put stuff. Put that trim board on first, because that tells you where everything else goes below it. You got to fit the door runner piece of metal, the little piece of Z metal. You got to make a door. If they give you the stock, you have all these little parts and pieces. I actually did use their nails for once, but I drill out the hole, a drop of ACC CA on the little pin, push it in, and I drill a hole slightly smaller, so there's actually some friction there. So it's actually doing its job. Grab irons, stirrup steps, those are actually from a US Hobbies kit, and these are Tichy grab irons. I'm not going to use staples and bend wire that's already been bent and curled and straighten it back out and bend it again. We've got decent commercial grab irons available for a reasonable price. You should use them. Don't waste time making your own grab irons unless you need something of a specific prototype dimension. Some nut bolt washer castings on little stops for the door. So yeah, I did not cut open a door opening because the door is glued in place. And if you cut open a door opening, well, you got to have a perfect door opening. And that's painful with plywood, getting it perfectly straight. And then you have to put a piece of 1x stock or 2x stock around the perimeter of it to make it look nice and smooth and clean. I'm never going to open the doors of any of my cars. I'm not sure why people like to do that. They provided a piece of tin plate steel, and that gets bent and wrapped around the ends. It covers up that ugly end grain. And a little bit of goo on the wood, a little bit of CA, smeared around, nice thin film of goo, some CA after you got the tin plated steel pre-bent into place. Push it into place, hold it there for a few seconds. It's not going anywhere, and that's done. And yeah, the stirrup steps, I drilled and pinned those as well. I test glue those in place with some goo, but then I just come back and re-drill the holes and drop pin. Those are actual clothing pins. I just nip them short and pre-drill a hole and push them in. Okay. Roof walk supports go down first on the roof. And then it's canvas and tar paper time. That single ply napkin that's been lapped and glued down. It's about 50% aqueous carpenter's glue is what I like to use. And you get to these little corners, you got all kinds of funky compound curve things going on here. Square pieces don't wrap around those neatly. Triangles will work. So if you use a series of triangles, you can get around the corner and overlap them. It's tedious and slow, but it looks better than trying to make wood look nice, perfectly smooth. I said, why bother? The roof on these weren't bare wood painted anyhow. Let's put something on it that actually comes close. Okay. Underbody. We put the car bolsters on. I don't bother to screw these in place. It's goo and CA. They're not coming back off. They're tapped and drilled, tapped for 440, and they're not going to come off again. The K brake is a precision scale casting, I just replaced because the old K-brake that came with these was way too crude. I know it's on the underbody. You're never going to see it. I know it's there. You'll know it's there. You want something that looks decent, even if you're not going to see it very much. You know, if you have your track at near eye level, you'll notice it though. Okay, queen posts inserted into the needle beams after they were glued in place, put in place according to the plans. Truss rods, that was the steel wire that was supplied with the kit. That was all bent. And those queen posts actually have a hole in them. They don't, the wire doesn't rest on top. It actually gets threaded through an eye of each queen post. So it's a little annoying, but once it's through, you know it's not coming out. It's not going to pop off. So you get it bent. It's soft steel. I replaced the turnbuckle castings, which were really crude, with some turnbuckles from Tichy. You just drill out the ream out the Tichy turnbuckles a little bit, slide one on one end, slide it on the other end, a little bit of CA. Turnbuckles are on, you're done. Now you can put more underbody onto this if you want to, but that's pretty much the limit of what I do on traction freight cars. And that's where we're going to stop here before we get into radial couplers and painting. So that's the end of this for this week. If there's any questions, scream them out now.
Anybody have any questions for Martin?
Martin, I wanted to ask you, last week, you know, the roof, as you were shaping the roof,
yeah,
it looked like it could be a bit problematic. Like you were saying, if somebody takes off too much material, it's shot. I just...
It is and it isn't. You can fill it back into something, as long as you don't take a half an inch off of it too far. If you take a couple of millimeters, that's what wood filler's for.
Well, my question though is, what do you think about the idea of somebody doing a 3D print of that type of roof for a kit like that?
I'm waiting for John Wobble of All Nation to do just that.
Oh,
I'm hoping he'll do it, because the dimensions of and the width dimensions of these roofs are not the standard clerestory roof profile that you can get from Northeastern. I have some traction roof stock laying around in my shop. I got compulsive about that when I went to like the Chicago O-scale meet in Indianapolis, or any meet, when I would take a ruler out and I was like checking all the clerestory roof to say, yeah, that piece is a traction roof. I'll buy that one. You can have the other 5. Or if I have to buy all 6 to get the one, fine, I'll sell the other 5. But, I want the traction one because I don't know where to get it. So yeah, a 3D printed one. And hey, the nice thing about it, if you do it 3D, you can make it hollow, make it light. There's no reason for it to be solid. Oh yeah, and Indianapolis Car Company years ago had these in styrene, clear styrene. And there were 2 pieces, you put them together in the middle. So you could cut it, left and right, long ways. There was a split long ways. But if you were too long, and you wanted it 10 inches or 2 inches shorter, you just cut a section out of the middle, filed it smooth, and put it back together, and melted the styrene together. And those worked great. You see those every now and then for sale on eBay or on some dealer's table at some show. That's another good reason to head out to shows. You find strange stuff laying around on people's tables for a couple of bucks, and filling the need, or filling a future need that you think you may or may not need, but want to have anyhow. You have to strike when the iron's hot on those types of things.
Hey, Martin, one thing that I think might be interesting, if you could maybe do it next time, is show the K-brake cylinder and some of those parts that back when that kit came out, they were fantastic. I mean, I remember looking at them and thinking, gee, well, isn't that a great thing for the kit? And to show what is available today versus what was considered back then to be state of the art, I think would be interesting for everybody.
Don't know if I can do that or not. I'll have to go look for other parts and see what I have.
Okay.
So half the time I don't use the half the time I don't use the precision scale or anybody else's K brake. I'll substitute in a brake casting from Q car.
Yep.
Which comes, which then you get the levers and hooked into the air cylinder front and back.
Yep.
Those are a little more interesting, and you can hook wire out of those into and have it run under the various pieces to hide where they should be terminating, give you the illusion of functionality. But I have to find out if I have a car. I got to take a car out of my stock on the shelf and see if I actually have one with that type of brake on it.
If you do that, I think that would be interesting because, back then, whatever was in the kit, that's what we used. I mean, seriously, because
I know
there wasn't anything else available. There weren't alternatives to that. If the manufacturer was kind enough to include something in the kit, my gosh, you used it.
Yeah, and the only alternatives was something equally crude from somebody else.
Yeah.
There's just that many.
Yep.
There's just not that many choices.
So anyway, if you can next time, I think that would be. Thank you so much for this evening.
I'll have to dig that out and see if I've got. I have to go look through my cars. I've been going through all my cars recently and actually been weeding out the inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Yep.